Welcome to She Lancer, Mom Entrepreneur with VoiceOver Angela. I'm your host, Angela. I'm a full-time voiceover artist and audiobook narrator, and this podcast are the audio versions of my live Q&A chats on YouTube. If you'd like to be part of the live Q&A chats, come on over to my YouTube channel, VoiceOver Angela. I'm live every Tuesday at 12 p.m. EST. We talk about voiceover, the business of voiceover, audiobooks, and so much more. Find more information on my website, voiceoverangela.com. Enjoy today's episode. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are. Thank you for joining me again for the live Q&A session here on my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Angela. I am a full-time voiceover artist and audiobook narrator, and my channel is dedicated to those of you just getting started out in this wonderful world of voiceover and audiobook narration. And through my channel, I share with you tips, tricks, techniques, things that I do every day in my own voiceover business. And then we get together in these weekly chats to talk about a topic. Sometimes two, sometimes more. See how it goes. But today's topic is, of course, the recording equipment for voiceover and audiobook production. Because again, these chats are for you guys. So we talk about what, generally what kind of questions I get throughout the week or the weeks preceding. So if you're not new here, then every week we have a new poll, and that is essentially the topic of today. And I've already seen that Caesar is here. So Caesar, feel free to chime in with specific recommendations if you have any for, beginners. Because as you guys know, I always say that there's just too many dang variables, right? In everybody's situation, your recording space, your financial situation, just getting started out. Not everybody can invest in the best stuff up front. I sure as heck didn't. Nor did I want to invest in the most expensive stuff until I knew that this was something that I really enjoyed. I had it in my head that I wanted to do it. I had it in my head that I was going to do well at it, that I was really going to love it, and that could be something I could see myself doing in the long run. But what's the reality of it, right? If I bought all of this, if I invested thousands of dollars into the best equipment, would it just be gathering dust, in a couple months? Because I don't know about you guys, but I'm pretty headstrong, and I dive headfirst into things and then sometimes lose interest. So I didn't want that to happen. So I started out with some lower end stuff and saw that I could build some momentum with this. And then I upgraded into other things, hardware, mainly microphone interface, upgraded the computer a couple times. But today's poll, of course, is where do you have the most trouble with your setup? Now, we talk about a lot of different aspects of your recording space, the elements of it, like the software, the hardware, your booth in and of itself, the different DAWs that are available to you. And some people are going to have more trouble kind of pinpointing what works for them in different areas, right? Some people just have a naturally, acoustically perfect sound booth when they first start out. I mean, it's not common, but it does happen. Some people start out with the right perfect microphone for them in the very beginning. But I think my biggest hurdle was the recording space itself, was getting that dialed in. It took me probably a good year and a half until I was comfortable with the sound of my space. So I wanted to see where you guys are stuck. Is it the microphone, the interface, the headphones? Some people have a really hard time with finding comfortable headphones per se, or an interface that doesn't click or make noise, or a microphone that is best suited for your voice. Or is it your recording booth, the sound quality of your recording booth? Or is it choosing the right DAW for you? Or perhaps the right plugins for you? Or is it the actual editing, mastering, and formatting aspect? Because I'm looking also to get back into making more videos about specific topics, like standalone videos. So I kind of want to know where you guys are getting stuck. So that way I can make content to address those things in addition to these live chats. So it looks like the majority of you, 41%, are more focused on your recording booth sound quality, which is totally understandable. Again, I was there too. And I think that's where most of us spend most of our time, or most of our focus, is getting that booth sound quality down. 22% of you said microphone, interface, headphones, the hardware. 11% of you said the software end of it, the choosing of the DAW, the plugins. And then 26%. Okay. So I was planning on making a video about the basics of like audiobook production with Adobe Audition. So I think I'm going to make that one next. So how do we want to go about this? I think what we'll do is we'll go over to the comments and see if there's specific questions that you guys have regarding voiceover equipment. But before we do that, I want to say that for those of you that have not built a booth or haven't even started purchasing anything, and you're just like at the beginning stages of wanting to dive into voiceover or audiobook production, which is the vast majority of my viewership, is people just getting started. The very basic things that you're going to need to do this is a decent computer. And when I say decent, I mean it could be an older computer. If you've had a computer in your home office, it would probably work just fine. I would think at least 8 gigs of RAM, from my experience, is probably the most important, only because you're going to be running some software on your computer that needs to have solid processing power, I think is what I'm trying to say. You also want to make sure that this computer is relatively quiet, because the noise factor is definitely going to be something that you want to address for voiceover, especially with audiobook production. If it is a noisy computer, you want to try to move it as far away from your recording space as possible. It's nice to have it in the same room with you, but believe me, you're going to be dealing with noise issues. I've tried it. Again, I've had 3 different computers, I think, throughout my tenure in here, and always had noise floor issues until I moved the computer, the noise making part, the tower, the laptop itself, whatever it is that I was working with, outside of the booth, and then was able to close the door. Those are really the only things computer-wise that you need to keep in mind. You will need a microphone. I do not recommend using a phone or a tablet to record with. Get a microphone, an external microphone. External meaning outside of your computer. Every computer has a built-in microphone. Don't use that. Use an external mic. Now, again, I'm not saying that you should go out and buy a Sennheiser 416. You could start out, I mean, a lot of the USB mics these days are pretty high quality. You could probably get a decent one, but if you can spring the couple extra bucks, and even secondhand, right? If you can find these things secondhand, why not? If you just want to give it a try. But having an XLR mic, meaning it's a microphone that does not plug directly into your computer like a USB. An XLR mic needs an interface, and then that interface plugs into your computer. That will start you out with the best sound. And the interfaces, some of them have really great sound quality that will enhance the sound of your voice and filter out a lot of noise. A lot of microphones will do that too. They'll have selections on them, or settings on them that'll filter out some of the noise for you. Headphones, I would say My personal preference is, of course, over the ear closed back, meaning that they don't allow any outside room noise to come in while you're listening back. They're closed. They're not perforated. With comfortable, cushioned, what is that? Ear holes. They sit up against your head comfortably because you will be wearing these a lot, right? I would invest in some decent ones. What else? And then your DAW. Choosing the DAW. There's 3 DAWs that I hear are used the most in voiceover and audiobook production. I use Adobe Audition. I've always recommended Adobe Audition. There is a subscription for it, though. You can have, I think both Adobe Audition and Reaper both have a trial period, I believe. Audacity is the third. That one has always been free to download and use for free. I believe there is a subscription with that too, if you wanted some other features and things, but the base version has always worked well for most people. So you've got Audacity, Adobe Audition, and Reaper. Those are the 3 DAWs, and DAW stands for Digital Audio Workstation. That is your recording software. Those are the 3 that are used most often. Now, when it comes down to plugins, for those of you wondering what that is, those are effects that you can purchase either as a standalone effect or in bundles from outside sources to download and then have it work within your DAW to further reduce mouth noise, to further enhance the sound of your voice, to address specific issues in your room or with your voice that perhaps your DAW does not have already built in within it natively. The plugin that I always recommend is the one that you can find in through Isotope, Izotope. That is the mouth declick. There are 3 different bundles of plugins you could purchase at Isotope. RX11 is what you're looking for when you get to Isotope. They have all kinds of audio repair suites, but you're looking for RX11. The 3 different bundles are Elements, Standard, and Advanced. The mouth declick. There's a declick also, but you're looking for mouth declick that gets rid of the mouth noises. That particular plugin is only found in the standard and in the advanced packages, of course. You can also find standalone plugins at Wave or waves.com. There's a ton of different plugins there for that. Could pretty much address anything that you needed it to. Reverb, noise reduction, some great EQs in there as well. But I do, as always, want to caution you with using effects. If you're watching YouTube videos of someone else saying, use this one, use this one, use this one, use this one, there's a good chance that you might not need one of those, or maybe you need something different or at a different setting. Again, remember, your voice, your space, your equipment is going to be vastly different from most everyone else's as far as the configuration, right? So you might not need what everybody else needs. You might need something different, or you might not need any at all. So always go light with using your effects sparingly. Use them sparingly, because the more effects you use, even though they're meant to enhance, they have a destructive quality. If you use too many of them or the wrong combinations of them or in the wrong order, they could do more damage than good with your voice. So if you have questions about which plugins that you may need or what combinations, what settings to use, and you don't want to try to figure it out on your own, I always recommend to hiring an audio engineer, right? You've got Lenny B, you've got Uncle Roy, you've got Tim Tippett, whom I used. If you're in my Platinum group, there's a lot of people in our group that have that ear and that technical know-how that could probably suggest a few things for you. Other than that, it's more like trial and error, right? Kind of learning your DAW and figuring out what you need or what you don't. But it does take time to develop that ear, to attune that ear. So don't be too hard on yourself if you can't get it right the first time, because none of us do. It takes a long time to get all of that together. As far as the recording booth, that is probably the most important aspect of building your voiceover business or audiobook narration business. Your booth or your recording space is going to be more important than the microphone you choose. It's going to be more important than the DAW you choose. It's going to be the most important thing in this endeavor. So you want to choose a place that is quiet, obviously, and that you could dedicate to recording. Meaning it's not, once you have it set up, nothing's going to be moved, right? It's a place where you can come at any point and submit an audition or, record a voiceover or produce an audiobook. Because even little changes in your room can change the sound of your recording. So you want to, once you have it set up, not touch or move anything. You want your chair to be in the same place, your mic's in the same place, nothing moves, right? Trust me, I found that out the hard way. You also want to make sure that the walls in your space are covered or bolstered. If you're in a closet, keep the clothes in there, keep the blankets, keep the linens in there. That'll help dampen sound and reduce echo, reverb. If not, you could do something that like I have done and just put soft coverings on your walls to reduce the echo and sort of dampen the sound. Again, hiring an audio engineer, they could dive deeper into that and maybe suggest some bass traps and to, where to apply, sound dampening. Also keep in mind that your surfaces beneath you. So if you have hardwood floors, put a rug down, blankets, the ceiling above you, the door behind you, right? Keep in mind all of those hard, smooth surfaces need to be addressed. Sometimes even your desktop. If your desktop is relatively large, you could get like a large gaming mouse, like a keyboard mouse pad, which I have. I have one of those big gaming mouse pads in here that just covers the majority of my desk surface. What else? You could also get external monitors too, speakers, to listen to some of your playback on as well. Although I have some in here, I rarely use them. So I might actually move them out of here and give them to my son because I rarely use them. But the reason behind that, by having headphones and external monitors, is that your voice, your playback, or whatever you're recording is going to sound different depending on what it's listened on, right? So if you think about how our clients use our voiceovers or our audiobook productions, they could be listening in a singular earbud or two earbuds or car speakers or, a sound bar. Maybe they're listening to it on some sort of a Bluetooth device. So it could sound different with different devices, listening devices. So having kind of a couple of different perspectives is the ideology behind having external speakers and headphones. What am I forgetting? Editing, mastering, formatting is something that is like a whole other course class in and of itself, again, because mainly due to variables in the DAW that you have, the plugins that you need, the different processes, how well you know your DAW, so on and so forth. So I think I'm definitely going to make a video about editing basics in Adobe Audition. I think at this point, if there's anything that I haven't covered or any questions you have, just post them and we'll go through the comments and answer those together. I think I might have touched on everything, but if I didn't, just ask. That's what we're here for. We got quite a few comments, so I'm going to stop yapping and go over to the comments and see what you guys actually want to know instead of listening to me yap. Paul was in early this morning. Hey, Paul. You got here way before I did. You were commenting before I was even awake this morning. Good golly. But he brought the donuts and tacos because it's Tuesday. Taco Tuesday. Right on. And then Caesar's here. Hey, Caesar. I'm glad you're here, Caesar. Oh, hi, Angela. I think by now you know that I absolutely have no trouble whatsoever with my setup. It took you a while, though, I think, before you were comfortable with it. But I know which bits I'd like to upgrade. Of course you do. In terms of recording space, bass traps would be ideal. I have room resonance and frequencies below 300 hertz, and it would be great to not have to filter it with EQ. I also would like to have a full hardware analog chain before digital conversion. That way I have less time in my effects rack. Also, you can really push a more natural and dynamic performance with hardware because you worry less about potential clipping and distortion. It is complicated stuff, and not for everyone. So those of you watching, Caesar is sort of, pardon the expression, Caesar, but sort of a gear nerd. He likes to have all of these things, but it's not necessary for everyone. It's not necessary for everyone. He's sort of a passionate person about these things. Not everyone is. But I find absolute joy in the technical aspect of voiceover because it allows me to put out better, stronger, and more natural sounding performances. That said, hello, everyone. I spent some time yesterday screaming into my mic to try and get it to clip while a hardware compressor was in the signal path. It worked. It didn't clip. New discovery. Rustic Hillbilly is here. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for the info, Spicy. He's chock full of it. But I'm glad you're here, Caesar. Dylan is here. Hey, Dylan. Long time no see. Where you been? Hi, all. I just do what you and Caesar say, and it's worked well so far. Seriously, get expert advice before making purchases. It'll save you money, time, and frustration. Caesar says, thanks, everyone. Remember, I came across all this information by wasting money, time, and experiencing frustration. Yeah, for sure. What just popped into my head is I think one of the questions I get the most about, like, what microphone should I buy? I think I'd have to say that with working with all the people that I've worked with over the last, I don't know, almost 8 years now, I'd have to say the one microphone that I have seen purchased and utilized and put to work the fastest with the best result has got to be probably the Rode NT1A or the NT1. Because it's decently priced and it's got low self noise, meaning it doesn't have a whole lot of, it doesn't add to your noise floor. And it has a really good sound. You just have to remember to talk into the front of it. I think that is the thing that happens the most with that. The gold dot indicates the front. They don't tell you that anywhere. You just usually have to find that out the hard way. Let me know what you think, Caesar. Jim is here. Hey, Jim. Good morning from Memphis. Caesar's in Volcanic Lake. Dylan says, good morning from geologically stable grassland. A cup of tea says, morning, y'all. Reading time with Poppy says, I picked microphone setup because, but I'm a little worried about the recording booth might be a bigger problem. And I just don't know it yet. It sounds good to me, and that's usually what happens. We just get accustomed to how it sounds, not knowing that it could sound better. I mean, I did the same thing. I mean, I started recording in my living room on a glass table. And you imagine the reverb in that recording, but I didn't hear anything because I didn't know. I didn't know what I needed to know. I didn't have an attuned ear. I didn't realize that sound was not ideal because I didn't know what I didn't know, right? So if you're just starting out and you're not in a space that you feel, or even if you're just starting out, I would still get feedback. Again, as I always say, join groups, join workshops, masterminds, Facebook groups in places where they will allow you to submit demos, auditions, recording snippets of recordings just to get feedback on it. This is something that we do in my Platinum group a lot. Every month we do that with auditions. We give feedback on auditions, and it could be that Maybe there is a lot of reverb in your room. Maybe there is a lot of dead air at the beginning. Maybe, whatever it is, but you don't know what could be improved upon because you're just accustomed to the way that it sounds. And it's no fault of your own. You're just accustomed to it and perhaps aren't aware of where it could sound better or how it could sound better or moving to a completely different space altogether, right? So definitely get feedback early on your recordings from people that you trust, peers that you are comfortable getting feedback from. Old Dog New Trick says, hello all, happy to be back. Hope all is well with you all. So far, so good. Gary says, my biggest challenge at the moment is the lack of audiobook marketing on the part of my authors. Next to nothing. Bad for royalty share VOs. Gary, I'm not calling you out or anything, but do you also market, for those of you that are doing royalty share books, do you market the audiobooks as well? In addition, or, do you find that you market the royalty share books more than the authors do, or just not do it at all? Just curious. Jim says, is Audacity anywhere near as useful as Audition at audio editing? I have it in the computer and used to use it. Personal opinion, Adobe Audition is far better than Audacity. That's my personal opinion. I think, and I know I've said this a million times, but I used Audacity for about 3 months, and then I switched to Adobe Audition. And when I got a little bit more familiar with Adobe Audition, it was like a whole world had opened up. Everything was easier. It was more intuitive. And then in retrospect, it felt like I was looking, when using Audacity, it felt like I was looking at everything through a straw. And then when I switched to Audition, it was like the straw was removed and I could see everything. There wasn't anything I couldn't do quickly and without frustration. I found Audacity pretty frustrating, but some people still love it. It comes down to preference, but personal opinion, I think Adobe Audition is far better than Audacity. More features, a little bit more intuitive, easier to use for me. Old Dog New Trick says, as a newbie, I'm looking forward to having a space with better soundproofing than my current setup. So what can we do to help you with that? In terms of what kind of material is in your booth, or is it the shape? Is it how it's executed? What do you mean specifically? Let's see if we can help you out. Spicy Caesar says, here's the thing. Buying expensive equipment when you're starting out, you'll probably end up using it wrong, hating it, and selling it because it was too complicated or your room was bad. That is exactly why your room is more important than your equipment. Because especially in the beginning, when you don't really know what you need to know yet, and perhaps you do invest in buying expensive equipment because you want the best to start out with, and there's nothing wrong with that. But then you listen to your playback and you go, God, this just sounds horrible. Why does my expensive equipment, this just sucks. Nothing sounds right. But what you don't know is that it's your space that needs to be addressed, or there needs to be different settings in your DAW somewhere. Perhaps the volume is too low. Maybe you're not giving it enough gain. Maybe there's too much echo because your walls aren't addressed. Your recording space is more important than your equipment for that reason. Because, no matter what microphone you start out with a $50 microphone, your room is going to sound bad. If you buy a $5,000 microphone, that's just going to make your bad sounding room sound even worse because it's going to be so much more, clear. It's going to be a higher quality version of a bad room, basically. So addressing your room is really where you want to spend your time and focus. And learning your DAW and learning what your DAW can do, how it can improve your sound, so on and so forth. That way, the expensive equipment that you invested in can really shine, can make your voice really shine. It's a great point, Caesar. Pamela's here. Hey, Pam. Good morning, everyone. Caesar says to Jim, right away, I can tell you that Audition is better, more intuitive, and has many more useful functions compared to Audacity. I would have to second that. Dylan says, I started this journey with a Blue Snowball USB mic and a laptop. From there, Rode NT1A and a Scarlett Solo, great setup for beginners, in my honest opinion. I'll have to second that. It's pretty close to what my setup was. I started with a Blue Yeti, and then I bought the Rode NT1A and a Scarlett. I think it wasn't the Solo, it was the 2i2, which is just 2 plugs instead of 1. I don't know why I went with that one. But then the Synco D2, which he also mentions, is basically a knockoff of the Sennheiser 416, which the Synco D2 came out a few months after I invested in the Sennheiser, and it sounds, according to Booth Junkie, because I watched the comparison video and I was blown away. It sounds almost identical. He says it's okay, Mike, not great for his content, I think for his voice. Then I consulted Caesar and went with a SE Electronics T2, and I'm in love. Also started in a PVC blanket fort, but now about to move into a dedicated studio that I've built. I'm going to a YouTube video comparing and contrasting all the mics and the different recording spaces. That's actually something else that it would be a great resource for a lot of people watching. If you're at the point where you're trying to figure out what microphone would be best suited for you, do what I did and a lot of us did, is go mouth work good. Go watch Booth Junkie here on YouTube. Booth Junkie, the channel Booth Junkie. He's a voice artist, and he does a lot of like technical comparisons, interface comparisons, a lot of other electronic equipment and microphone comparisons, like shootouts, right? Whatever they call them, where he compares the sound of a couple, sometimes 3 different microphones, and you could sort of hear the difference. And then depending on like the qualities of your voice compared to his, because my voice is a little bit on the deeper register for a female. So I thought that the shotgun mic, the 416, would be better for my voice, which I think it is. I think it's fine, but I have a couple of others too. Anyway, point is, go watch a Booth Junkie's channel and see if you can get some comparisons in of sound, and then maybe that will help you make the decision to choose a microphone. But I think the Rode NT1A and the Rode NT1 are the two that probably outshine as far as entry-level XLR mics. And then for an interface, the Focusrite Scarlett Solo or the Focusrite. No, I would not do the 2i2. The 2i2 has popping issues sometimes. Like it'll just insert random pops and clicks. Mine never did, but I hear that a lot. So the Focusrite Scarlett Solo for your interface, and then the Rode NT1, I would have to say, are probably your best to start out with. Unless someone else has something else to add, which is fine. All right, where do we leave off? K last name says, love that, Spicy Caesar. Jim says, my access to Audacity is being limited, so I am having to fall back on Audacity to post my work. You mean Audition, perhaps? Being limited? Access to Audition. Monthly payments. Lele is here. Hey, since I don't have a great recording booth sound quality, I need to understand editing better. I would redirect that focus back to your recording space, Lele, if you can. I would figure out where your problem areas are and think creatively on how to fix them. And if you need some input, you can always tap the Platinum group, jump in there to Discord and ask some questions, and you might get some great ideas. Katya says, doing the best with my current setup. Pop shields galore over the mic, around the mic, blanket on the desk, AKG mic, praying that my noisy neighbors go away. Pop filters, that's something else that I'm glad that you brought up. This doesn't look like a typical pop filter, but that's what this is. You generally see them as, I don't think I have one in here. But you generally see them as like a big circle with like what looks like pantyhose kind of material in it. What those do is they diffuse air. They keep plosives or reduce plosives getting into the microphone. But mic placement can help with that too. If you notice that my microphone is off to the side, it's pointing at my mouth, but to the side of my mouth. So when I'm speaking past it. So that reduces the plosives, right? The puffs of air that come out when we enunciate P's, D's, T's, C's even. I still have one because sometimes I get a little animated and there might be an errant plosive that lands in there. And I chose this one because I do video and I didn't want a big circle in my face while I was trying to talk to, to people on the video. So I have this one, which is smaller but does the job. But that's what pop filters are for. That was Dylan's continuation. Caesar says, to Lele, editing can only do so much to improve your booth sound quality. Yeah, focus on your booth more over your editing to fix the problem. Specifically when it comes to reverb, resonance can be mitigated with EQ, but at least deaden the room as much as possible, meaning, like we were mentioning before, about the soft surfaces on walls, desks, ceiling, floor, to sort of keep the vibration of your voice from bouncing off of them. That's essentially what causes echo. Rochelle says, hi, Angela. Hi, Rochelle. I'm having trouble with the mic. It's like once I find the right sound on it, I have to keep my head right there and not move or my voice sound will fade. I would be sure. What it sounds like to me is that we might be talking into the wrong end. And I'm not, there wasn't like a shot at you or anything, but it happens a lot where if it's a side address microphone, meaning that it's one of those ones that has two sides to it. And some people talk into the top because that's just how we're accustomed to seeing microphones used. But it might not be set up to be used that way. It might be set up to be used where you talk into the front of it. So if you're talking into the top, that's going to affect how it picks up your voice. And if you're meant to be talking into the front of it, but you're talking into the back of it instead of the front of it, right? Like we mentioned earlier with the gold dot in the front, then that could affect the sound of your voice too, or how it picks it up. So the first thing I would do in your situation is Google your mic and find out if it's a top address, side address, where is it picking up your voice? Like, how should it be placed? And that might help improve the sound. And you also generally want your microphone about 4 to 6 inches away. If you just do this with your fingers, right? That should be about roughly how far away the microphone is from your face. Jim says, I first went with an idea for sound booth design that Lenny B endorsed in a video of his. It has worked very well. The computer here is a local i9 desktop that works well. Great. So you got one with some power, or a great processor anyway. Gregory says, good morning, Angelinos and Lenas. My problem has been either having perfect conditions or starting to hear the room without making any changes. Also, while mastering, I tend to have spikes in. I think when you're talking about hearing the room, maybe your ear is becoming more attuned. I think that was why it took me so long to get my room dialed in, is that as I was learning and growing, I was starting to notice more things about, like, my ear became more attuned to what shouldn't be there and so on and so forth. So then I would put Band-Aids on everything. But when I went full time, I gutted this room and then completely redid it. So it was much better. But it might be just one of those situations where you just need to do what I did. Just take a look at the room and completely redo it in a way that ultimately sounds a little bit better. And as far as the spikes go, I mean, that's going to be a common thing unless you get the compression down really well. But I think depending on what kind of voiceover you're doing, for example, if you're narrating dialogue and, there's a lot of, high pitched notes in it or loud parts, there's going to be spikes. It's something that you really can't prevent, let's just say. I think that's normal, is to have spikes in it, unless you're talking about like not clipping, but like if your mic is too hot, perhaps, right? I guess it depends on what you mean by spikes. Lisa says, good morning. My booth is a small closet in my mobile home, which are not known for their overall soundproofing. Also, I'm using my laptop and the fan kicks in at the most inopportune times. Move that laptop away if you can. You can find a cord, an extra long cord for just about anything on Amazon. That's exactly what I had to do. As I mentioned before, my computer is outside this room, and I just have extra long cables running from everything from the computer to everything that needs to be wired in here. That way, the sound of it is not picked up by the microphone. You could probably hear it now. My door is open. You can probably hear the computer. It's pretty loud. But trying to remove that sound later is just going to make your audio recording not sound its best. It could affect the sound of your voice in the recording. So instead of trying to fix it later, you're better off just addressing the root cause from the jump, from the start. So get that laptop out of your room. You might need an external monitor. You might need a Bluetooth keyboard and a mouse, but believe me, it's worth it. Just to not have to worry about that in post and then spend so much time trying to get that noise out without your voice sounding funny, in the end result. Just get that computer out of the same room. Trust me. Jim says 3-pin mics deliver the best sound. 3 XLR mics. Sean says, my issue is outside traffic noise leaking in. Oh, that sucks. I converted a walk-in closet and have treated my walls with noise blankets and have a mini mic isolator. Room tone is great unless I get traffic. I know I've mentioned it before, but I have a playground. I live in a townhome complex. And I have a playground that's literally like 15 feet away from where I'm sitting right now. On the other side of this wall, there's a playground. So I have to time my recording sessions between, when the kids are asleep, they're not they're at school. It's not, before or after nap time, that kind of a thing. Same thing with traffic. Start to take note of when traffic noise is most prevalent and then choose different times to record. It's just going to be one of those things where you're just going to have to sneak in. You might have to sacrifice a couple hours of sleep here and there, but to get the project done, that's what you got to do, right? Is record when traffic is not making a bunch of noise. It's the audiobook producer way. That's just what we have to do sometimes. But just know that if this is something that you want to do full time, that sacrifice may be temporary, right? That sacrifice of time, of extreme schedule mix up to make things work is temporary. I did that for about 1.5 years, knowing that it was temporary, like really pushed myself, sacrificed time away from my family, sacrificed time away from, sleeping or whatever else it was, knowing that it was a temporary bit of time that I was spending to make this something that I could do full time. And I got there. So now I have a lot more availability to record, right? So keep that in mind, right? That you're moving toward a goal. And this time right now of extreme overloaded schedule is more than likely just temporary, right? For however long that is for you. Caesar says, on the subject of USB mics, the definitive recommendation is the PreSonus Revelator condenser. The onboard processing allows you to build an effects rack right in the mic so you can record with it. But that might be a little bit, I'm not disagreeing with you, Caesar. I'm just saying, in terms of ease of use, almost just plug and play, right? For people who don't know how to build effects racks and things and to get super complicated. I mean, in terms of just user-friendly, right? I mean, by all means, listen to Caesar because Caesar knows what he's talking about. But if you don't want to have to worry about building an effects rack, I mean, unless you want to. But anyway, I'm avoiding the tangent. No tangent. Katya says, thank you for the advice about moving the computer away from the mic. The fan in my MacBook can be loud at times. I think most computers make some sort of noise, even if they are touted to be silent, whisper quiet, or whatever, however they're marketed. They're all going to make noise of some sort. Some sort of a frequency is going to be emitted from them that the microphone doesn't know not to pick up. The microphone's just going to pick up whatever is in front of it. And most of the time, it's the computer as well. So if you can, just move that computer away from your microphone as far away as you can. Gregory, this is a continuation. Where was the beginning part? Oh, with the spikes. Okay. Different spots throughout the recording, like someone is messing with the volume, turning it up and down. I use a USB mic and Audition. I wonder if your USB mic has a like a sound deadening or like a cut, like a hard pass, a high pass filter, or like a something on it that's controlling the modulation of sound, like if it's controlling the sound on it. I would look at that because that's what it almost sounds like. It sounds like it's trying to modulate or control your sound, the volume of your sound for you. And that might be doing that. Lisa said, however, upgrading this summer. New mobile home being delivered in July with dedicated sound space, and will pick up my PC tower and locate it in a different space. How exciting on multiple levels. New house, new space. Yes. Congratulations. Caesar says, I too built a cable conduit into my studio so my laptop can sit outside in the hallway. My room tone before processing is now sitting at around negative 77 dB, so I can control dynamics with minimal noise filtering. That is so nice. Not have to worry about your noise floor at all. Old Dog New Trick says, if the poll had an option for a neighbor that seems to start riding back and forth on their noisy dirt bike right as I sit down to start recording, I might have selected it. You know, that happens a lot. It's like you can spend the entire day doing what you need to get done, knowing that you have recording to do. And then as soon as you can get into your recording space, hit that record button, you sit down, you take that breath, and then the lawnmower next door goes off. Or the dog next door starts barking, or the kids come out to the playground, or tons of airplanes decide to fly over. It never ends, and it never ceases. It never surprises me when that happens. It's like they all just know. They're all just waiting. She in her studio yet? Yeah. Okay, let's go. Cue lawnmower. Cue dirt bikes. I mean, I tell you. Cue the construction. I feel you. Jim says, how hard is it to import filters into Audacity? Isotope is already in the machine, so how to get into Audacity? If memory serves, there is a, what is it called? I bet you anything, Jim, if you search that in YouTube, you'll probably find it. But it's something about plugin management, I think is what it's called in Audition. Actually, I think I have Audition open. What's the word? That's what it is. For Adobe Audition, if you go into the Effects tab, at the very bottom, you have the Audio Plugin Manager. I would assume for Audacity, it's something along those lines in terms of what it's called. And then there's usually a option to search for the plugins that are found in your computer, and then to activate them, or to, something of that nature. Pretty similar to Audition, I would think. Katya says, old dog, new tricks. I'm with you there. Yep. Joy. Hey, Joy. Hello, Angela and company from sunny and breezy Michigan. At least it's not raining, right? It's always cold and rainy there with you. Caesar says to Jim, same deal as with Audition. There's a plugin manager where you can set plugin locations for scanning. There you go. I knew it. Eric Grimes. I don't know why I do that. I do that every time I say your name. Why is that? Because I'm a Walking Dead fan, and it reminds me of Rick Grimes. Eric Grimes. Hi, Angela and all. I'm a dork. Just get used to it. Do you save your recordings before you run effects in case you need to do revisions later, or do you just save the finished recording? That is a great question. I am at the point with my effects rack and processes that I save it with the effects rack on it or applied to it. That is how I save it. If I'm doing an audiobook, I will save one set of files that are edited and have the effects on them, but not normalized. And then I have the whole other set of files that are normalized and finished. And I keep those edited, processed files without the normalization for revisions if need be. Because as always, normalizing to -3 dB is always, always, always the last step, because that is where you sort of get that RMS average, right? Is with the normalization. But after the book is off to retail sale, after it's out into the world for purchase, then I'll offload everything onto an external hard drive, but I save both sets of files. So with every voiceover I do, I save it as edited and with the effects applied. Paul says to Eric, always, always, always save an unprocessed version of your file. And I know a lot of people that would say the same. I'm not saying to do it the way that I do it, but that is the way that I do it because I'm comfortable with my processing. Always keep in mind also that if your client, make sure that you read the technical specs, because if your client has asked you for a raw file, then that means you just saved the only file that you had as processed. So that means, guess what? You're re-recording it so you can send it in raw. So to Paul's point, it wouldn't hurt as you're getting used to all of these things to keep an unprocessed, unedited copy of your file separate and just name it something else. Name it raw, right? Or whatever, version 1, whatever you want to name it. That way you can differentiate between the raw, unprocessed file and then the finished file. Dylan says to Eric, I always save before every step in separate folders. Definitely overkill, but it saved me a couple times. Lisa says to Eric, I save many different stages: initial recording, edited recording, mastered recording, and final recording. That's a lot of files. But I mean, do what you got to do until you're comfortable with your process, until you find the process that works best for you. Even if it's silly, even if it takes up a lot of storage space, I mean, do what you're comfortable with. But just make sure that you have whichever way that you're storing these files once you offload them. Because I offload finished work like every 3 to 6 months. I'll offload everything off of my computer. That way it's not bogged down with all of these little fragments of files everywhere. Caesar says, oh, hi, Eric. I personally save 4 stages: raw, cleaned, processed, mastered, MP3. Might be overkill, but I like to be ready for anything. Gregory says, don't forget to hit the like. Don't forget to like the live, folks. Let's match the number of likes with the number of viewers. There's 46 viewers right now. So if all of you just took a minute, hit that like button. If you're watching in Team Replay, hit the like button and the notification button and the subscribe button. Boost my algorithms so we can help other people just starting out to find this information and to find, my goofy self. So they can be exposed to the tangulants as well. Caesar says studio monitors are crucial for mixing engineers. They provide better output for making processing decisions, but they need a proper sized room to work correctly and have to be calibrated for accuracy. There's always a caveat, Caesar. Why can't we just have speakers in a room and just be speakers in a room? They have to be calibrated. You're not wrong. Everything's so complicated. I'm in a goofy mood today. That's a good thing. More coffee. Jim says, what filters do you have in your filter preset package? I found out the hard way that denoise does not belong. Again, everybody's filter effects rack is going to be different. I need a denoise. You may not need a denoise, but I need a denoise. So for me, it does belong. So I think I have literally like 2 or 3 videos on my channel here where I go through my effects rack and how to save one as a preset in Audition, so on and so forth. But again, keep in mind that everybody that you see on YouTube telling you what filters to use or what effects to use may not apply to your situation, or you may need a whole completely different configuration. So just take it as information to put in your brain. Now you know what the effect is and how it works. Take it as that. Don't use the same settings as someone else because you might just be doing more harm to your recordings than good. Sage1 VO says, good afternoon, everyone. Sorry I'm late. I brought Boston cream donuts. Good Lord. It's a good thing I'm going to kickboxing class tonight. I'm putting on those LBs with all of the donuts today. Spicy Caesar says to Jim, denoise belongs, but has to be done correctly. First step is the high pass filter. Second is expansion. The remainder is spectral denoising. Yes, Boston cream donuts are a thing, Pamela. Yes. Ewell Akers says, for me, it was editing and mastering like Christmas lights. One goes out, the whole line gets messed up. Oh my God, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you because same. I remember being in that place and it's so frustrating because you not only have to have the right effects for your voice, but you also have to have them in the right configuration, in the right order, and then test them with then normalizing to -3 and then testing that setup in amplitude statistics to see, I'm talking about using Audition, Adobe Audition, where then the RMS is where it's supposed to be, your noise floor where it's supposed to be, your peak amplitudes where it's supposed to be. That whole process took me so much time, but once I got it down, then that was it. I saved that process and then I used that same process over and over and over. Now it's just like a button, 2 buttons, But my advice to you, if you're in that process where you're testing different effects and configuration of effects and seeing, creating that process, take notes. Take notes of everything that you're doing, right? This is trial 1. I'm using this effect at this setting, this effect at this setting, or screenshot it, something. Because you might forget what you've done here versus there and then what the end result was, and keep track of all. Please trust me, because then you'll spend a lot more time trying to go, oh God, I messed that up. But what did I do here that worked better, right? Keep notes of what you're doing. Trust me. Scott's Vox said, I'm late. I brought some crullers. For me, the biggest challenge has been getting EQ, compression, etc. I've learned a lot from your videos, and also Mike Russell. Mike Russell is another great channel to watch. He does a lot of great videos on not only Adobe Audition, but I also want to say Audacity and Reaper, if I'm not mistaken. I think he talks about those as well. But I got a lot of great information, voiceover related information about Adobe Audition. So Mike Russell, check him out. Continuing to improve. Eric is here. Hey, Eric. Good morning, everyone. Just joining whilst the car is getting washed. May your voice be warm, your mouth just moist enough, and your script free from typos. Have a great voiceover day. Getting the car washed. Sage 1VO says to Pamela, yes, they are, but I grew up in New England. Caesar says, Angela's right. The NT1 is under $200, has a very linear, natural response, and is the quintessential VO starter. Some would recommend the Audio Technica AT2020, but it doesn't fit all voices, and that's what I have found. That's also a microphone that I recommend, the AT2020 and then the NT1A are the two that I recommend the most, but I think there's been more success with the NT1A than there has been with the AT2020 as far as versatility. Excuse me. So I think the NT1A would probably be a better choice. The NT1 is linear enough that it is a safe recommendation for everyone. The rest of the tone shaping can be done in the DAW. Jim says the name of the mic is the side I didn't bother speaking to for a while. Then I turned the mic around and voila, good sound. Eric says, with regards to not knowing any better, I am still using the exact same equipment that I started with. The Sennheiser MKE 600 microphone, Focusrite Scarlett Solo, and Audition. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I've upgraded a couple times, but I've kept my old equipment. It's always good to have backups on hand. Backup interface, backup microphone. If you're Caesar, you're going to have a whole stable of them because that's just how Caesar rolls, because he's a gear nerd. I have not only my Sennheiser, but I've got 2 other microphones in this room with me right now. And then a couple, I still have my NT1A. I still have the Blue Yeti. I still have all of my equipment. Old Dog New Trick says, any recommendations for building a recording space? I plan on eventually building a room within a room in my basement to help with soundproofing. Any tips or advice? That's a whole other conversation. Some would say the shape matters. I think most would say the shape matters. I would also make sure that it is tall enough for you to stand in. That way you have some versatility in terms of sitting with audiobooks or standing for commercial work, that kind of a thing. There's going to be some specifics in terms of insulation, air gaps, all of those things. What I would do if I were you, old dog, new tricks, is to watch some DIY booth builds on YouTube. Again, join some groups. That'll give you some great ideas in terms of materials, size, shape. Again, air gaps, like how many layers of walls there should be. I mean, that's a whole conversation. Eric said, exactly for the reasons you stated, I don't know if I need any improvement. Sage1VO says, for those who have tried both Adobe Audition and Reaper, which one did you feel worked better for someone leveling up from Audacity? I've only used Adobe Audition, so I can only say Adobe Audition would be superior. But for those of you that have used all 3, which one do you think is the best? Miss Alicia Full says, hello, everyone. Hello, Alicia. Joy says, yep, I'm one of those Audacity users, and I'm thinking about getting Adobe, but how much is it per month? I mean, the prices are always going to change. I'm not sure what it is right now. The best bet is just to go to Creative Cloud or Adobe, Google Adobe Audition and just see what comes up as the current subscription price. I have the whole suite of applications. So I have like Lightroom and, I have all of the apps on Creative Cloud because I do a lot of video work and things. So that's one price versus, just one app. But the last time I saw, I think it was $21, $22 a month, something like that. Jim says, I did not have the luxury of going expensive getting in. Most of us don't. We just start, kind of on the free and cheap side and then sort of build up as we go. I simply talk to one wall and the mic and let a Sherpa blanket eat the bounce sound. Works like a charm. Your space doesn't have to be pretty. Your recording space does not have to be aesthetically pleasing. It just has to sound good. Who cares what it looks like? No one's going to see it until you get like to the point where you're taking on live directed sessions. Then maybe you might want to, spruce up a corner of it for video camera. But I mean, overall, it doesn't have to be pretty. Kay last name says, hi, Angela and everyone. This was the first live I am able to attend, and I'm happy to be here. Well, we're happy you're here, Kay last name. Thank you for doing this, Angela. I am a newbie. However, my fiance is in a video production and has done audio work with professional equipment for over 30 years. Yes, that is very fortunate. You lucked out. Assembling our goods, and we'll start recording as soon as life allows. DTR's wedding in August, etc. I'm not necessarily K last name. I'm K. Where's the continuation? I don't see the continuation of that. Oh. K-Law? K-Law. Okay. Well, congratulations, K-Law. Looks like you got a good partner in that. Caesar says, I recall having a client who would have really noisy recordings. She picked a closet next to a water softener and an external wall facing the road. She moved to another closet and got better room tone. You have to really think through what room you're going to use, your dedicated space, right? Quiet, external noises. There's a refrigerator on the other side of the wall or a playground 15 feet away. Gary Micheloni says, I only have 6 audiobooks on ACX, 2 per finished hour for a royalty share all 2025. I'm using published audiobooks to show credibility to my commercial VO prospects. Very choosy regarding titles and topics because of that. Caesar says, in lieu of the Cinco mic, the D2 that we talked about, the replica of the 416, a good beginner shotgun is a Deity S-Mic 3S. Great sounding, has enough sensitivity for speech clarity without overemphasizing mouth noises and clicks. In terms of price, Caesar, is the Deity relatively close to the Cinco D2? Because the Cinco is about a fourth of the price of a Sennheiser 416. So is it similar in price, the Deity, to the Cinco D2? Caesar says, I would very much recommend the NT1 in lieu of the NT1A, as the NT1 fits more voices better and responds to EQ and processing better. The NT1A has a brittle top end that's difficult to tame. There you go. Directly from Caesar. Natalie says, good morning. Caesar recommended the Lauten LS208 for my setup, and I love it. I feel it makes my voice sound richer and helps to limit background noise. Caesar definitely has some great recommendations for mics. Jim says, my access to Audition is being cut off for the moment. Is the free Audacity able to import the isotope filters? Again, yes, I believe so. You just have to go to the plugin manager and see. Or you could probably even Google that question and it'll tell you, Caesar says, the new 4th generation Scarlett line of interfaces perform much better than the often problematic 3rd gen, has greater gain range, and uses the same converters as their Elite Studio grade interfaces. Caesar says to Jim, yes. Caesar says to Rochelle, your microphone may not have a very forgiving polar pattern. But as a rule, it's good to keep your head in place when recording. What sort of microphone do you have? Your polar pattern is basically your pickup pattern. Some microphones will pick up what's on both sides of them. Some of them are like more unidirectional. Some of them, that's your pattern, your pickup pattern. Jim asks, in a shotgun mic, the only input is in the end. Yes, shotgun mic, it only picks up what's right in front of it. So I can fasten a pop filter to the side of a shotgun, right? To the front of the shotgun only. Jim says, shotguns are end address, so just the front. The side vents don't pick up sound. They are just used to reject outside noise, so the mic focuses only on your voice. Caesar says to Gregory, if I can click it, spikes are normal. You can try compression in series, a fast compressor to knock the spikes down, then a slow compressor to level and smooth out the performance. Let's see. Are any more questions in here? Rochelle says, great advice. Thank you. It's a USB condenser mic and I have a pop screen. Let's see. Reading Time with Poppy says, I need to do deeper studying and get to understand what exactly is meant by processing and mastering. Maybe I even do them and just don't know the nomenclature. Processing and mastering is, along the same lines. Processing is when you're basically applying effects, like you're processing it with effects. Mastering could be, I would have to say mastering is probably the same. Mastering is just enhancing the sound. So essentially processing is the process of enhancing the sound, right? It's pretty much this. You're probably doing it. You're just words, Of course, Caesar says, oversimplifying, but processing usually means getting the performance to sound the way you want. This includes EQ, compression, de-essing, saturation. Mastering is getting the loudness to where you need it to be with final tone shaping and dynamics to refine the sound. Essentially, it's doing the same thing. You're messing with the effects and volume and things to get it to sound a certain way. Scott's Vox says, gotta go mow the yard. So you're one of those guys. You're one of those guys that's affecting your fellow voice actors that live in your neighborhood, if there are any. So you're that guy. Scott just went, oh, someone's sitting down to record. I got to go mow the yard now. He's one of those guys. Way to go, Scott. Dave says, I transitioned from Windows to Mac OS Audacity DAW for VO work. Still a beginner. So everything is new, but was this a good move functionality-wise? I think it's about the same. Some purists of either side will tell you one is superior to the other. I don't think it really matters. Audacity, all the DAWs work just fine with either platform. It's preference, Reading Time with Poppy says, on fan noise, I was finally able to mount my mic up high instead of on the desk with the laptop. I'm hoping that will be good enough for now. Otherwise, I'll have to make space in the pantry outside my booth to put the computer there. That is something else that I totally forgot about. Excuse me. If your computer's in the same room or anything that like vibrates or emits a low hum that's on your desk, and then you have a desk mounted mic arm, you're going to need a shock mount for the microphone, because the shock mount will absorb any kind of vibrations coming from your desk. So if it's the computer, vibrating, making like a low vibration, or really anything, a fan, whatever else you have on your desk, the shock mount, and it'll even absorb any kind of vibrations through the floor too. So I would say that would be something that I would definitely recommend, regardless of really anything. Get a shock mount for your microphone if you have the option, because that will absorb vibrations from the floor, from your desk, the trucks passing by outside. although you probably aren't recording anyway with the trucks going by outside because they're noisy. But shock mount. Let's see. Let's see. Looking for questions. Joy says, if I can click it, if I upgrade with DAWs, should I go with Reaper or Adobe Audition? Which one is generally user-friendly? Again, I say Audition is very user-friendly, but some people also say that Reaper is as well. So what I would do if I were you, Joy, I mean, in addition to the feedback that you get today from probably Caesar and anyone else in the chat, is to do like free trials of each. You could do a free trial, I think, of Adobe Audition and Reaper if they're available, and just try them out, download them and try them out and see which one sort of, is more intuitive for you, which one feels like you could use it day in and day out. That's what I would do. Caesar says to Sage 1 VO, both Reaper and Audition are great. Specific to VO, Audition has a much easier workflow as it's designed for post-production work. I would recommend Audition for you. There you go, straight from Caesar. Old Dog Nutrix says, thank you for advice. Hope everyone has a great day. Yep. Caesar says to Joy, the Audition's probably better. Kayla, okay. Jean says, my current recording space is like a blanket fort attached to a closet with clothes. Not pretty to look at, but it works. Doesn't have to be pretty. Let's see. Caesar says the Deity S mic S3S is $350. The Synco mic D2 is $200. So $150 difference, much like the AT2020 and the NT1. The Deity fits more voices in general. The Synco is hit or miss. Let's see. Old Dog Trick says, speaking of recording area not having to be aesthetically pleasing, I set up my current area and my wife immediately let me know how ugly it is. Just tell her it's going to make you money. Don't matter. Don't matter if it's pretty. It's going to make you some money. Buy her something pretty. Monty says, I'm living in a multi-gen home. My parents have a TV room below me. My dad uses hearing aids. I feel that I will need to put soundproofing between the floors. Are there any other options? Or are there other options? I mean, it sounds like that might be, the soundproofing might be something to consider. Unless there's another spot that you can move your recording space to. I mean, this is just one of those situations where you just have to get creative. You have to kind of think outside the box. What can I do? Maybe you just have to wait till they go to bed to record, Paul says, you're amazing for doing these. I normally just get to listen to do work, but just wanted to say, thank you, Paul. That was nice. Jim says my H5 has its own shotgun, which I'm considering for tabletop work. Those Zoom H5s are great for, I have one as a travel rig. Like I'll take it with me because it's like a mobile interface recording thing, like all in one. I use that for my travel rig, but I don't use it for every day. I do know a couple people who use it for everyday recording. As long as you're getting great sound out of it and you can use it in that respect, why not? Let's see. Caesar says to Jim, the H5 doesn't quite have a shotgun. It has a mic attachment that kind of looks like a shotgun, but it's like that big, maybe, if memory serves. It has a stereo small diaphragm capsule SDC microphone. They're very popular for field work, but can be used to record a vocal performance in a pinch. Yeah, again, I use it as a travel rig, but I don't use the microphones on it. I use it more as an interface recording device. And then I'll plug it into my laptop, and then I'll plug in my Sennheiser. My Sennheiser goes with me when I travel, when I go somewhere for long periods of time and I have to do work. I'll take my Sennheiser, the Zoom H5, and then my laptop. So that's what I use as my travel rig. Caesar says to Monty, there are floor panels that comprise of a sandwich of mass-loaded vinyl and mineral wool that could mitigate the transmission of sound between floors. I've seen videos of these on YouTube. What can you not find on YouTube? I tell you, just about anything that you have a question about, you can find an answer, an opinion, tutorial on just about anything on YouTube. It's crazy. All right, y'all. Thank you for joining me today. I think that's going to do it for today. If there's something that you guys want to talk more about, learn more about, get multiple perspectives on, as always, just let me know in the comments. And it could be something that we discuss in a upcoming live chat. Again, these live chats are for you. So tell me what you want to talk about. Okay. So if you're watching this in Team Replay, again, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, go watch some of my other videos, boost my algorithms so I'm not lost in algorithm land. And that way we can help more people that want to get started out with voiceover audiobooks to find this information. Anything else? I think that was it. Anyway, I'll be back next week. So same bat time, same bat channel. So I'll see you all then. Bye. Thank you for listening to She Lancer Mom Entrepreneur with VoiceOver Angela. That's me. For more information about me, visit my website, voiceoverangela.com, or hop on over to my YouTube channel, VoiceOver Angela. Again, thanks for listening. Have a great day.